Okay, hey everybody, it's Get the Nutritionist here, and today's video is going to be on vitamin C, but really I was naming this video 10 things vitamin C does that you don't really know about. I'm kind of tired of the usual videos to see about vitamin C. It's a good antioxidant, it's an immune booster, helps you with collagen synthesis, it does all these things, right? Hair, skin, nails, you name it, right? But what makes me really interested in vitamin C is the things it does that we don't talk about. And I think vitamin C can be more useful than we realize. It's just a matter of understanding where it works. And in this way, we're going to talk about it, how it helps indirectly, mostly through hydroxylation, which, I'm going to explain, you know, the process it helps with, as I have indicated here on this little picture I use for social media. But I'm going to just keep talking and I'm going to get straight to it, okay? So, all right. Vitamin C is helpful for immunity, scurvy prevention, which is caused by too much vitamin A, by the way, collagen production, glutathione regeneration, and its general role as an antioxidant. But I want to highlight some interesting benefits that are not as known. So we're going to talk about how vitamin C plays a wider role as an electron donor when it comes to hydroxylation reactions in the body, because it helps change the state between iron and copper. It influences the execution of peptide-based hormones, which there's a lot of talk about hormones, but if you're not going to execute the peptides to work as intended, right, then vitamin C does, interestingly enough, play a role there. Also want to talk about methylation of TET enzymes, a little bit complicated, but I'll make it easy. Then expression of DNA due to TET, right, carnitine, functionally vital for fat-based diets. And this is why I tell people, right, when you go low-carb keto, you need to eat sufficient amounts of animal-based protein for carnitine. And at some point, I'm going to do a video on just amino acids by themselves because we don't generally think of protein as amino acids. You hear protein, the end, right? But the reality is there's more than 15 amino acids, right, that the body can use. I think there's hundreds, I think, if not, in general. But point being is, we don't really appreciate amino acids at their base core, right? Then we're neglecting positive benefits that could be bestowed upon us for our health. Alters neurotransmitters, adrenal hormones, and may reduce allergies. Important for some people because they might do everything, and like I say, right, there's always that one little thing you can do, and that's what changes your whole life and makes your health better, right? So first of all, vitamin C recycles tetrahydrobiopterin, BH4, and this is a cofactor used for dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and nitric acid production. So when BH4 becomes oxidized, biopterin into BH2, vitamin C helps regenerate back to BH4, where it's active when it does its work. So if you don't have enough BH4, what can happen, right, is your nitric oxide synthase becomes uncoupled. This means more superoxide is produced, blood vessels constrict, and neurotransmitter production falls, right? So superoxide is something you need a bit of zinc for, a bit of copper for, a bit of manganese for, right? Mostly you want a lot more zinc for this role. There's something called superoxide dismutase, and what happens is it takes a superoxide, which is very harmful, right? It's one of those free radicals that is damage to the body. So you get the zinc that comes in, and it helps you to basically you change the state of it, so down the line it causes less oxidative damage, and eventually it breaks down, and this is where you're gonna need glutathione, thioredoxin, catalase, because then it has hydrogen peroxide, it breaks into, water, hydrogen peroxide, break more again, and then you get rid of it and you eliminate it. So, if you see my videos, you know more or less what I'm talking about, but yeah, at the core, you need to have that conversion. So that's how tetrahydrobiopterin and vitamin C helps with that. Because it's extremely sensitive to oxidation by, of course, reactive oxygen species like superoxide, peroxynitrate, which we'll talk about right now with nitric oxide, hydrogen peroxide, and hydroxyl radicals. Vitamin C scavengers may I think I wrote it weird. Vitamin C scavenges many reactive oxidants before they can damage BH4. This is why in some cases, vitamin C can be linked to depression, anxiety, ADHD, high blood pressure, and endothelial dysfunction if you have lower vitamin C. So here you have tetrahydrobiopterin. It helps you with hydroxylases, which we talk about. So I mean, we'll talk about iron later, right? But the whole point I want to make is vitamin C helps you a lot with iron to make sure hydroxylation works in the body. So it's going to help you with tyrosine hydroxylase, which you need it, right, to make tyrosine. Tryptophan hydroxylase to make tryptophan, right? Amino acids, nitric acid synthase to make arginine. Alkylglycerol monoxygenase for alkyl glycerol. And you need all these, right? Tyrosine for dopamine, tryptophan for serotonin, arginine for nitric oxide, and alkylglycerol for fatty aldehyde. And yeah, I mean, it's all natural part of the body, and vitamin C helps you with this alongside iron, right? So it's like an direct kind of thing, right? Like everything has a little bit of influence from something, and in this regard, vitamin C does help you with these conversions of hydroxylase. So kind of moving on to what I talked about earlier, right? So vitamin C can help you with increasing nitric oxide, and it does it by lowering superoxide. It prevents peroxynitrite formation, recycles BH4 as we talked about, and prevents the nitric oxide synthase uncoupling. So when BH4 becomes lower, NADPH energy transfers electrons to superoxide instead of nitric oxide. This is what's considered the nitric oxide synthase uncoupling, which promotes more oxidative stress. And if you have low vitamin C, you're going to have more of this happening. If you have more vitamin C, then you're going to prevent this from happening. So you have less of these radicals from causing inflammation in your body, this oxidative stress. And I never really thought of it like this, right? Because maybe you're the kind of person, right? You're active, you're working out, you do what you can, and then you notice that you don't really have your blood vessels popping out like other people, right? Some people naturally just have their blood vessels popping out because they don't have any issues, with hypoxia factor 1, talking about nickel toxicity. Articles, I'll link to that later on. And essentially, your body thinks you're hypoxic and you're lacking oxygen, when the reality is you could have nickel toxicity causing these issues. You could be, again, anemic, right? Low iron, so you're having issues with your red blood cell production. Anything odd with the copper, then you have issues with the microcystic anemia. So vitamin C, in this kind of way, could be another part of that puzzle, in which it helps you have more nitric oxide, more blood flow. Men, I know you want to have another 1-2 inches, right? So if you get the blood flowing, you'll be happy, you'll be impressed with yourself. And that's why when you look at a bunch of these supplements, right, for men, it's always like arginine and citrulline and fucking deer antler, right? But the reality is we don't have a deer antler deficiency in the body, right? It's a matter of eating enough protein, getting your vitamin C, eating, enough. Well, I mean, we need enough meat, right? You're getting your amino acids, right? You're getting your minerals, you're getting your B vitamins for the most part, right? And it's going to help you with your blood flow in this regard. So, like I tell people, right? You don't need to get gas station rhino, what do we call rhino boner pills, right? Like, you don't need that. Just eat more meat, take care of your body, reduce all sources of inflammation, and you will have more blood flow, which will help you wherever you imagine that, right? Whether it's the bedroom or the gym. It's important for a lot of men, right? So you can prevent this nitric oxide synthase uncoupling. So instead of having more oxidation, you're having more nitric oxide, you got more blood flow. And to keep in mind, right, if you breathe more through your nose than your mouth, right, you can actually help your body produce more nitric oxide, so you have better blood flow. This can be a big issue for people that have sleep apnea, right? For people that are very pathetic looking with the chin, right? They have that recessed chin line because they never masticated and chewed their food properly. Maybe they grew up as children and they ate nothing but mushy foods, Never ate meat to kind of get the jaw going and to have that mechanical stress to develop the jawline. Some people, due to issues, allergies, whatever have you, right, growing up as a kid, they're always mouth breathers, right? The issue with people that do the mouth breathing, right, is they're lacking that extra nitric oxide they could be getting from their nose breathings, right? So it's important to really train your body, train yourself to breathe specifically through your nose if you've always been a mouth breather. And once you do that, you'll notice you'll improve in energy, you'll have better sleep. And some people, they got like a mouth guard. Some people, like, they take their mouth. It's a matter of practice, right? Because some people, I mean, yeah, allergies sucks. And when you're a kid growing up, you don't know better, right? You're going to breathe out your mouth instead of your nose because your nose is clogged for boogers and such, right? Because of allergies and whatnot. So I want people to know, right? Once you eat a healthy diet, you start to have less snot in your nose, less things over time. Eventually, you have pretty clear nose for the most part, right? If you have no obstruction or no broken septum, of course, right? And then in that regard, right, you could practice on nose breathing so you have more nitric oxide running through your body. And yeah, that's how I did this weave to connect to vitamin C and, having more nitric oxide in the body. Because again, right, you do need arginine and citrulline from meat, and you don't really need to eat boner pills for that, right? Vitamin C controls epigenetics through 10-11 translocation enzymes. So vitamin C is a required cofactor for TET deoxygenase. These enzymes remove methyl groups from DNA. This influences which genes turn on and which turns off, right? Epigenetics in regards to stem cell differentiation, cellular aging, and tissue regeneration. More vitamin C increases 5-hydroxymethylcytosine, 5-HMC, which promotes proper methylation in the brain, your neurons, embryonic stem cells, developing tissues, fibroblasts, so your skin, some immune cells, and stem cells. Now, the thing about stem cells is you hear about how the stem cell can be literally anything, right? And depending on certain factors, it turns into whatever cell it's required to be. That's what makes them kind of cool, right? So they must decide whether to remain stem cells or to differentiate and become the cell needs to be, right? This choice depends heavily on epigenetic remodeling. Vitamin C supports the activation of developmental genes, removal of inappropriate methylation, the cellular differentiation, and epigenetic remodeling. So as we look outside of conventional vitamin C benefits, we can grow out in scope to see how much more it can do, especially in regards to regulating epigenetic expression of DNA. So vitamin C does this in regards to TET, right, by maintaining ferrous iron. Vitamin C deficiency may impair normal DNA demethylation in regards to converting ferric iron into ferrous iron. So the the Fe3 into Fe2 iron, right? Lico reduces TET enzyme activity, which is not good. This occurs with a catalytic iron competition, altered iron availability, and increased oxidative stress. Reduced TET activity may lead to increased DNA methylation, when not required. Silencing of certain genes, we don't really want that, especially when you look at cancer and P53 tumor suppressor protein. And epigenetic dysregulation, you want your cells to be expressed as best as possible, right? People talk about epigenetics and how you're born with a bad gene, whatever it is, the gun's loaded, but your lifestyle choices determines whether the trigger is pulled, right? So the goal of being healthy and removing a bunch of inflammation, a bunch of oxidative stress, doing the right things, not just changing your diet, but also your lifestyle, getting more sunlight, all that kind of things, right? It's a matter of reducing and lowering your stress bucket so your body can have much more resilience and a better expression of its DNA, so the epigenetic detrimental stuff won't be expressed, right? So the bad things won't happen, depending on whichever your polymorphism is, right? It just depends, right? Because there's different stuff, right? People are born with all sorts of certain genetic disabilities, and for some people, it can be managed. For some people, it can't be managed. You're just kind of screwed, right? So depending on what it is, you want to have favorable epigenetic expressions, so the bad things don't happen. So vitamin C can enhance TET activity by maintaining catalytic Fe2, which is going to be the ferrous iron, and reducing oxidative stress, but again, it's unlikely to overcome nickel binding if it is the dominant mechanism affecting iron in the first place, right? Because I made a video about people having anemia. They've done everything, and they still have anemia, right? Despite all their best attempts. And it's because of they have nickel toxicity that impacts competition with iron. You have less iron, that impacts EPO, everything, hypoxia-inducible factor 1, you name it. So for a lot of people, right, I'm branching and weaving everything into nickel because it's a hell of a monkey wrench that you stick it in the car engine and it stops everything, right? It's kind of how I'll explain it, right? It's not exactly you throw it at a flying jet and it blows up the engine, but it's almost as catastrophic in a less explosive way. Vitamin C maintains iron in the correct oxidation state inside enzymes. So most people know vitamin C increases iron absorption, so again, if you have anemia, this will help you greatly. Just, more lemons, more limes, more berries, you'll be happy, right? So an even more important function of vitamin C is that it keeps catalytic iron in the reduced ferrous state inside many enzymes, which causes less oxidative stress when compared to ferric iron, which can cause much more of that oxidation, right? You don't want unnecessary oxidation. The body has a bunch of processes that require oxidation, That's why vitamin C helps it go back and forth, from ferrous to ferric, ferric to ferrous. Same thing with copper, with copper 2 to copper 1, and so forth, to maintain that balance, to prevent excessive oxidative stress, so you're not causing more damage to your body, right? That's kind of the point. That's why vitamin C is important in that regard. I don't really know anything else that does that in regards to the iron and the copper. So, because again, vitamin C reduction / electron donor role, that's how it does it. Sufficient levels of iron are required for collagen production, epigenetic regulation, hypoxia signaling, hormone synthesis, and without vitamin C, these enzymes can be inactive despite adequate iron levels, right? These dysfunctions are also similar to people who are nickel toxic that also have anemia. If you want to learn more, please click that link. I have maybe 1 or 2 videos on nickel toxicity, and for a lot of people that have that anemia, right, where they've done everything, they've eaten more meat, they've gotten transfusions, they've taken care of H. pylori, which, interestingly enough, right, H. pylori needs nickel to live, which is a big smoking gun in my opinion, right? Because you get rid of the nickel, you detox it, then H. pylori can't exist. It can't do its urease. It can't mess with your digestion. So it's just amazing how when these connections are made, it's going to make a profound impact on someone's life, right? Because again, right, it could be that a little bit of information, right, that changes the way you live your life to have a better quality health in life and all that kind of stuff, right? Because, all it takes is one sentence or one little thing someone said that changes everything, right? So that's why I talk a lot, only because as I'm thinking, as I speak, I may say something that could profoundly impact you, or maybe you have ideas that go to another idea, right? The way I see it, I mean, the more you talk, the better. But as much as possible, I try and be as quick to the point as possible, because I don't want to be on a tangent where I talk about other things that aren't related, right? I try and be on topic as much as I can. So vitamin C helps produce carnitine. Carnitine, hence the name, mostly comes from meat, moderate amounts in dairy and fish. Carnitine can be made from trimethylglycine, TML. Vitamin C and iron help with the hydroxylation part of the conversion process. Many people associate low carnitine with meat intake, but vitamin C is required for synthesizing carnitine. Carnitine transports fatty acids into mitochondria where they're burned / beta oxidized for energy, right? That's how it works. Your body, beta oxidation of fats, fatty acids, you make energy, right? That's how it works. So for long-term sustainable energy, fat becomes a major fuel source for organs like the heart. Heart uses 60-90% fatty acids for that, right? Muscles too. Well, muscles use it too, but I'm not sure the extent of it, right? Because you also get glycogen. Carnitine supports the production of ketones during fasting and low-carb / keto diets. Without enough carnitine, ketogenesis can be impaired, right? This is why if doing a keto or low-carb diet, people should eat sufficient amounts of muscle meat, as some people wonder why they're unable or take a long time to achieve ketosis, right? Some people can get ketosis, boom, in like 2 weeks, right? And that's because, less carbs, more fat. But at some point, I feel like people kind of lose the program, right? Because you do need to eat protein for amino acids to get carnitine. A little bit of vitamin C helps. It goes a long way, especially with recycling it. I think you reabsorb some of it in your, in your kidneys through the filtration, right? The glomerular filtration, right? So you get some of that back, which is kind of cool. And yeah, so if you're going keto and you're going very, I don't know why you're more plant-based or going like no meat, you need carnitine to have that be very, very helpful, to be very useful. Because there's some people, right, that, they're higher carb, right, but they're still low carb, and they're still able to hit ketosis, right, because they eat plenty of meat, right? And some people say, oh, if you eat plenty of meat, it kicks you out ketosis because it's glucose and the conversion gluconeogenesis. It's all made up bullshit, right? Like, it's just a theory. No one's ever proven that. But then the same people that promote that eat a ton of fruit and veggies, and they're like 400 grams of carbs, right, from fruits, and they live on a beach, and then they talk about things, and they don't even like work all day. And like, I mean, there's a lot of people that are tucking out their ass when they're living in paradise, and I just find it kind of weird, right? I care about the common man, the common woman, the regular person that works 9 to 5, because you're who I care about. You're like the majority of America. You're what makes the world turn, the wheels spin, right? So I'm giving people information that's useful, that you can use in your own life. That's kind of the whole point, right? I'm not here to help the rich people out, right? They got the people they rely on. You don't have anyone, right? So I'm here to do what I can. So in this regard, right, if you're gonna do keto or low carb, please eat a lot more meat, right? As much as you can, right? I would say treat it like a carnivore diet, but you include some, your low carb options and be happy, right? Again, I got a list. I'll probably link down to the list so people can know what to eat, right? Let's see. List of low toxic foods. Click here. That way you know what to eat, right? Because some people, they don't know what to eat, right? And it's everyone on the internet wants to be a guru. Everyone thinks they know better. But at some point, you got to be humble enough to realize people should do what's best for themselves and experiment with themselves instead of following a blind protocol. Because then you feel bad, and then the person who gives a protocol says, well, you didn't follow it enough. When in fact, maybe it just didn't work in the first place, right? Because I've talked to people, and they don't change their diet. Like, they do something that doesn't work, and we change it, and then it works, right? Because you just kind of figure things out as you go along, right? So, again, carnitine prevents the accumulation of lipotoxicity, such as deacylglycerols, ceramides, and acyl coenzyme A's, by oxidizing them for energy. Without enough carnitine, they just kind of stay in the cells, and they don't mobilize. Low vitamin C can therefore reduce fat oxidation, exercise endurance, energy production, and recovery. Some fatigue, even seen in vitamin C deficiency, may actually result from impaired carnitine synthesis rather than reduced immunity, right? So here's the whole thing. You get protein lysine, it goes into trimethyl lysine, you get some iron, a ketoglutarate, oxygen, right? Vitamin C, then it becomes 3-hydroxyl, blah, 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 blah. You need vitamin C here again, blah, 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 blah. Then L-carnitine transports long-chain fatty acids into mitochondria. Beta oxidation happens. This makes acetyl coenzyme A, which gives you ATP protection for energy. And that's it in a nutshell, right? That's why you need carnitine, especially. I think carnitine is so important that you could probably pull off, a kind of mixed diet and still be in ketosis, in my opinion, right? Because there are people that are, low carb, not keto, below 30 grams of carbs, they're still in ketosis, and that's pretty cool in my opinion, right? You get the benefits of that. So vitamin C regulates hypoxia-inducible factor 1 alpha. It does it by regulating hypoxia-inducible factor hydroxylase, right? Again, right? The whole point I want to drive home here with vitamin C, it's kind of cool and interesting, is it works with iron for hydroxylase and all that. So essentially, in its role of iron conversion for hydroxylation, these enzymes determine whether cells think oxygen is plentiful. Without adequate vitamin C, hypoxia-inducible factor 1 alpha remains activated, glycolysis increases, angiogenesis increases, inflammation rises, and cell metabolism shifts. And this becomes increasingly important in cancer due to the Warburg effect, which feeds cancer and grows tumors. High altitude adaptation, as many people can have trouble breathing, difficulties exercising, and of course, low energy. So for people to understand in greater depth how hypoxia-inducible factor 1 alpha can promote cancer when expressed incorrectly, you're going to really like my article on toxicity and its impact on cancer. Click here. So I made this article on toxicity and how it influences cancer, and in my opinion, right? Toxicity is like textbook fucking cancer. Like every mechanism they could pull to make cancer happen, nickel does that. So if you're interested in cancer and how to fight it, instead of spending money on organizations that do research and nothing happens, you could, in your own hands, take into account, the knowledge and what to do about it, detox nickel, to help you with that. Because, again, right, like, people are kind of missing the point. No one ever considers nickel toxicity until they do it, and then they realize, okay, it's going away, this is badass. There's something here, and we should probably make this a little more well-known, right? So, again, right, you have your organs, you have hypoxia-inducible factor 1 alpha, you got autophagy, right? You got all these here for survival, metabolism, and so on. When this is expressed, right, you get tumor growth because you have an increased in metalloprotein metallase, right? Vascular endothelial growth factor 1. Then you have angiogenesis, right? Some more. Then you got PAL expressed incorrectly. Then you have the electron oxide synthase, the coupling happening, and this increases angiogenesis. So essentially, your cancer cells or the tumor cells, right? They get bigger, bigger, bigger because they're getting blood flow. They get more blood flow. They get more sugar, more glucose, energy. In some cases, um, estrogen can feed it. In some cases, glutamine can feed it. So the whole point is, and I'm thinking, right, it's not necessarily that, well, of course you don't want too much estrogen, right? You want to balance that. Glutamine, it's good, it's helpful, right? It's the most plentiful amino acid in the body, right? Then you also have sugar, right? Glucose, right? It's not bad, but too much isn't good, right? So it's not so much that these things are terrible, right? It's rather that the environmental has changed due to nickel toxicity and other carcinogenic things, that it's altered the expression of your genetics. So you're like going to have an inhibition of p53 tumor suppressor protein, other cancer stuff that should be working to kill cancer before it mutates even more. And that's essentially what's happening here. Then you have vitamin C, helps with adrenal hormone production. Adrenal glands contain a lot of vitamin C concentration in the body. It participates in producing norepinephrine, epinephrine, and cortisol synthesis support. When it comes to dopamine conversion to norepinephrine, vitamin C, again, through hydroxylation, specifically through copper-based dopamine B hydroxylase, it does the magic, and then it converts. And then from there, you have norepinephrine converted to epinephrine through phenyl, ethanol, amine, and methyltransferase, and that continues down the path, right? So during periods of increased stress, adrenal glands will use up a lot of vitamin C. This explains why there's an increased requirement of vitamin C when people are stressed, especially in regards to electrolytes, you know, sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, beta calcium for expression. I think it's very important. So examples of a polymorphism in disease, where you're kind of lacking it, just to show not similar, right, but like more or less what deficiency could possibly look like. IBS, right, inflammatory bowel disease, adrenal glands. You're pretty terrible at stress. You're intolerable to stress. Stress kicks your ass. You feel like you can't like deal with it. Then you have ADD. You're so, you know, I'm saying I don't know. You're hyper, right? ADD. You can't pay attention. You're kind of TikTok brain in a sense. Unless you really like something a ton, then you could totally focus on whatever that is, right? Because they tend to be like one-trick ponies in certain topics you like. Hopefully it's a good topic, right? Parkinson's for some people, because there is impact with, again, right, overall with hydroxylases. We talked about your dopamine and how that can be impacted. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, schizo, depression, because again, it's messing with your neurotransmitters, right? Your dopamine, your serotonin, your oxytocin, that kind of thing. And this is where it kind of all makes sense about why vitamin C is pretty useful, right? So vitamin C helps activate peptide hormones. Vitamin C is required for peptidyl glycine A amidating monooxygenase, PAM. This enzyme is unique in that it is the only enzyme for amidated peptide biosynthesis. What this means is it activates numerous peptide hormones, and of course, there's many, and these are the ones I like to focus on. Oxytocin, right? Important for love, bonding. Woman in labor, you get more of that. If you're lactating women, you increase more of that. Again, the bonding hormone, or milk production, that kind of thing. Then you have vasopressin atrial natriuretic peptide for water balance and blood pressure balance. Then you have gonadotropin releasing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone for reproduction, for the male sex hormones and women's sex hormones. Then you have insulin and glucagon for blood sugar regulation, right? We know about this. Then you have cholecystokinin, CCK, gastrin, and GLP-1 related peptides for hunger, satiation, and digestion, right? So if you have all the protein in the world, right? Let's just say, right? And you're vitamin A toxic, right? Let's say you took Accutane, eat a ton of liver, and let's say for whatever reason you don't eat enough fruit, right? You don't eat any berries, you don't really, eat limes and lemons, whatever, right? So point being, right, is your body is going to use up a lot of vitamin C to reduce the oxidative stress from vitamin A, and you're depleted of vitamin C, and then this can lead to peptide hormone dysfunction, in which you're lacking vitamin C, which you need for peptidyl glycine A-amidating monooxygenase to then execute and to activate these peptide hormones to then do its job, right? So I think this is really interesting, and I don't really hear many people talk about this, right? because they come from a vitamin A toxicity background, Accutane, it makes perfect sense to me. Some people, they don't really understand that, but to make that connection, that could be a big issue, definitely. So PAM2 is, PAM is basically two enzymes. It's peptidyl glycine A hydroxylating monooxygenase, PHM, for hydroxylation, and then peptidyl A hydroxyglycan alpha amidating lysase, PAL, which cleaves hydroxylated glycine to do its work, right? And PHM is also carbon dependent. Vitamin C, similar to iron, works by donating an electron between copper 2 and copper catalysis, where it goes back and forth, right, to make the reactions happen. And that's why, vitamin C is important in that regard, because that's what makes it work, and it continues on, and, its conversions and whatnot. So here you have kind of how this works. It's a little complicated, even for me, honestly. But this is what goes on and carries on processes in your body, right? For not just one peptide hormone, but for many various peptide hormones, which, again, peptide hormones are protein-based. Vitamin C helps lower histamine reactions. Vitamin C lowers circulating histamine through multiple mechanisms. Vitamin C may increase histamine degradation, reduce mast cell activation, lower histamine release, and reduce oxidative stress that promotes mast cell activation. Vitamin C reduces oxidative stress, which dampens nuclear factor kappa beta and MAPK signaling, supporting normal calcium regulation, which reduces excessive mast cell degranulation to preserve gut barrier function, lowering circulating histamine and other toxins over time. Basically, it helps reduce leaky gut, right? But again, if you got leaky gut, you want to fix it. But with the mast cells, the big thing you want to worry about is going to be diamine oxidase, and that's because diamine oxidase is what actually helps you, lower your histamine. So I know some people with terrible allergies, in the short term, they could take a diamine oxidase supplement, DAO, and that helps them greatly with their allergies to reduce it. But again, right, if you suffer from allergies, right, it could be you're eating a lot of spices. I don't recommend spices because spices can contain mold, different spores. Again, you could be living in a dirty home. Maybe you got mold in your vents somewhere behind a wall, pipe leak, roof, whatever. It could be influencing allergies. Third, just eating terrible food all the time. Eating much of wheat can give people that kind of stuff. Some people don't do good with regular milk, but they do better with A2 milk. Let's see, allergies. Seed oils, and some people can express it even more. That's an issue. Nickel toxicity, again, because it acts as a hapten, and because it's a hapten, it binds to cysteine, and if I recall correctly, histidine, and then when it does that, what happens is it acts kind of like an autoimmune-like reaction in which your body starts to fight these cells, these haptens, right, that bind to the cysteine and the histidine, and that causes issues. But again, I'm leaving out certain things like thiamine and magnesium. Vitamin C helps, indirectly in that way. Loaded B6, but I've actually never found anyone with a B6 deficiency, right? I think we're still sold on supplements that we're lacking of, that people believe they're B6 deficient, but if you eat plenty of meat and fruit, you're fine. You don't have a B6 deficiency, right? 10. Vitamin C supports cholesterol conversions into bile acids. Vitamin C participates in cytochrome P450 hydroxylation reactions involved in cholesterol metabolism. So adequate vitamin C may support cholesterol turnover, bile acid synthesis, fat digestion, and elimination of cholesterol through bile, right? So again, if you know me, I'm detoxing, because that's what I talk about a lot, because that's the goal to getting people healthier, is you remove crap from your body. Phase 1, Phase 2 detox. Bile is eliminated through, toxins through bile. Then you do Phase 3 support, which again, you increase fiber, you take binders, you reduce enterohepatic recirculation, and you put out as much bile as possible so you don't recirculate that stuff that's carrying the conjugated toxins from Phase 2 detox. So yeah, I did this pretty quick as possible. Again, some sources of vitamin C. For men, RDA is 90. Women, it could be 75. Lemon, 112 milligram per cup. Juice, right? I should just put juice. Limes, I couldn't find a good source for that one. I could be wrong, so Don't take my word on it. Strawberries per cup, 98. Kiwi peeled, right? You don't want the, you don't, cause some people like to eat the whole damn thing, right? And I think it's kind of crazy because the skin of the kiwi, people say it's good for you. It's got all these other things. But if you have issues with oxalates, I wouldn't recommend it, right? Just so you would know more or less to not do more harm, right? If you're coming from a person with an oxalate background. Acerola cherry, also known as Barbados cherry. I kind of like Barbados cherry as a name. It sounds badass. Acerola, I mean, it sounds cool, unique, and whimsical, but I kind of think people need to throw around Acerola and Barbados together because people think they're completely different. But yeah, this has a crazy amount of yeah. So it's 1,644 milligrams per cup if you have Barbados cherries, right? You don't need to eat that much, of course, right? Because it's a ton. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty cool how in nature, right? They actually grow easily, and you can produce a lot of it, and it has a lot of vitamin C naturally. So, an ending. Vitamin C plays a role in human physiology. Beyond that, on simply being an antioxidant, vitamin C does this as an electron donor when it comes to hydroxylation reactions in the body involving iron and copper by changing their state. This influences the execution of peptide-based hormones, methylation of TET enzymes, 1011, and then the expression of DNA makes carnitine functionally vital for fat-based digestion in regards to ketogenesis, alters your neurotransmitters and production, and adrenal hormones and production. So, in a way, we talked about vitamin C in a way not many people talk about it before, right? Because people talk about it for immunity, a good, take with thick, the end, but it's a lot more than that. And again, if you take collagen with vitamin C, people generally know that now. It helps you with the synthesis. And yeah, it's really important for people to understand that vitamin C goes beyond what's known. I remember doing this for biotin, right? Biotin, people love it for hair, skin, nails. It's in beauty products and beauty supplements. But the reality is it's really good for helping you with glucose metabolism, and it helps people with diabetes a lot. So again, there's much more research to be done on things that are very stereotypical, right? Like zinc. Zinc is good for men and their testosterone. It's amazing for detox. It's you need it to detox, right? If anyone talks about detox and they never mention zinc, in my humble, honest opinion, they're a fucking charlatan. Because your liver needs mineral-based stuff to get it going, right? It'd be if someone told you to put a bunch of corn oil in your car, right? I mean, sure, right? But it's not meant for the engine. I mean, you can put a little bit of it, but not too much, or you can actually mess your gaskets or blow your engine, and, like, things are done a certain way because they're meant to be a certain way. And people forget the base of many things and how they should be. So yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know. So yeah, these are all the articles I've ever written. I mean, it's going to be quite a while already, right? Like, amazing, wow. So yeah, if you have any questions, please leave a comment. If you want to connect with me directly, you can email me. I'm a man of email. I like that. And we can go back and forth with each other. If you don't want to meet me before, but you want to meet me at some point in the future, you can click here to do a strategy call with me. We could plan an appointment together. And then I could help you with changing your diet. If you have any health problems, diseases, I could help formulate you a diet meant for you. A lot of people, they throw together a protocol, throw it at the wall, to give it to everybody. But the reality is everyone's different. Everyone comes from a different background of toxicity, right? For some people it's nickel, for some people it's tungsten, for some people it's mercury, for some people it's going to be vitamin A. For some people it's B6 toxicity, right? It varies. Some people are just completely deficient, right? We're all damaged in certain different ways, and I got to figure out in what way you're damaged so I can best help your body recover and recuperate to detox so you get back your health. And again, it's not a 1 month thing, right? This is something, when you meet with me, it's going to be something that changes your life forever. It's going to be a part of you going forward. And I got people 1, 2, 3 years that every year they get better. And it's kind of the goal, and it's kind of cool. And I think people should really invest in their health because nobody's going to do it for you. I've got a lot of hope in RFK Jr. and that he does something to help benefit us so we could empower more people, right? That'd be awesome. That'd be amazing. I wish NTPs could take insurance, right? That'd be awesome. If we could take insurance, oh man, we would be unstoppable. We would bankrupt the whole industry, which is why we don't take insurance, right? I mean, it's the preventative measure, right? And that's what's scary to certain people that make a ton of shekels, and that's problematic. But yeah, please like, please share, please subscribe. This video is interesting because, again, people don't talk about the different benefits of vitamin C, and I hope to do more on different topics. And yeah, I'm gonna end it here before I just babble nonsensically for a while. Okay, everyone, I love y'all. God bless y'all. Stay amazing. And yeah, vitamin C can be helpful, right? But don't do like more than like a gram and a half or 2 grams a day because people can get oxalate stones from that, and then you don't want that, right? That's not good. So yeah, goodbye now.